Comet-Man here, back for the new year with new videos. Hope the time is treating you well, and I got us a little holiday special today to cap off the beginning of the new year. Today's tale takes us to the far northwest of the Arctic Everskoas. Any other time of year would be snow blizzards and ice storms, never ending. But this was a special time of year. A time of year when a child could get lucky and see one ray of sunlight through the dark gray clouds. A time of year when even the coldest of hearts were thawed. We come to a village adorned in fibrous festivities and decorations. All around the shelter homes, igloos, and fur coats. The villagers all assisting each other, completing the day's work, all for the preparations of the festivities. Curious kids dunk a bucket of water on the grouchy old neighbor man as he waves his fist in the air lecturingly to the children running off laughing. A grey mist rolling in. Child running in lead of the kids, still laughing until he bumps into a fur wall, falling to the ground, noticing clawed feet as he looks up over the looming shadow. Stunned in fear by the horned, furry beast, not even noticing it reaching its clawed hand, grabbing him. The other kids running off in terror as the dark mist engulfs the village. 2 more of the monsters emerge from the mist, then 4, then 7, count lost as they all stormed the village. Frightened villagers screaming in terror everywhere as children were dragged off, some grabbed right from parents' arms. Into the blinding haze, another child heard being dragged off into the darkness. Screams echo into distant silence, but amidst of all the frantic villagers running in terror, a steady ticking rises to a white flash explosion. Disorienting and blinding the beast, now a girl's voice yells. As an insurgency of green-hooded squads emerge to defend the villagers, fighting off with their individual weapons of bats, clubs, and slingshots. As an infamous group, dubbed the Elves, Saints of the North. Though rough and tumble, in her lead they were just enough to deter the beast's plans. The beast, though undefeated, and keen on the nuisance, gather in choir, as if calling to some dark god. The girl in lead, Dolly, striking a beast whose face seemed to shatter like a mask. She notices the rumbling as it turns to a cracking shake as the ground began to rumble, opening, a massive silhouette rising in the dark mist. Snowy wind falling back as this giant emerges, a golem of snow and ice, towering at the size of 20 men, or the green heroes, one of them getting up to see. Aw, man! As the Titan began laying waste to the squads, powerful strikes shaking the ground, impact of its attacks sending others flying to the ground. Noticing their numbers depleting, Dolly immediately orders retreats, knowing she could only trust herself to distract the beast long enough for the others to leave. As the wind suddenly picked up, she began to walk towards the Colossus through all the chaos. Teammate Ben on the floor yelling against what would probably be her demise. Dolly stood before the giant enemy as it watched the insect of an opponent before it. As Dolly dodges its first massive stomp, the impact still knocking her to the ground as it readied itself to crush. A fast-moving projectile slams it on the head, flying past, swinging through the air. What was clearly now a bone axe, picked up by the strengthened winds, returning to its origin in the grip of a large woman in reds and furs, not stopping, running into the now hurricane of winds surrounding the giant. Elves in confusion at the phenomena guide the villagers to take cover. The man in red and furs appears running behind the woman, hands in the air almost composing the powerful winds. To a tornado as Dolly takes cover behind a rock, of which the woman leaps off of, ramping into the air. Inhumane heights to the beast now encaged by a tornado. As Dolly takes cover behind a rock, the woman in red leaps off the very rock to inhumane heights in the air as she spins, building force with her axe. Towards the windy cage beast, looking up with a roar as she brings the axe down, slicing the monster in half. In an explosion releasing a barrage of flying rocks and snow. A cloud of dust and dirt rippling out throughout the village, shielding their eyes. as gentle snow began to fall. That ringing the end of the scuffle as the fur beast had disappeared as well. Dolly, snow-covered, recognized the man. Nick?
Who was requesting to Mary maybe next time she wait for them to run in together, helping her up.
Mary smiling back, maybe he should run faster next time.
Ruffling the dirt from his hair.
Dolly dusting herself off, who was mad at them, for she hadn't seen them in some years, and had long mourned that surely they had been taken by some far-off winters, madly refusing Nick's embrace. As her green-cloaked group team members arrived to check on her, two as unplentiful sentiments. Greeting and reunion pleasantries they had no time for, as the villagers were in panic. 1/3 of the village's children were gone, a mother claiming witness to the hairy beast dragging two of them off into the dark mist. Horned hairy beasts dragging children off, Nick and Mary looked to each other, knowing exactly whose doing this was. Dolly annoyed, noticing that two of them are doing that thing again, where they look at each other, know what each other are talking about but don't tell her, pushing them aside, ordering her science-oriented teammate to make a comprehensive scan of the area. "You got it," he remarks, flicking his cracked glasses back on. Pulling out a scanner device, and with its continued beeping, it was confirmed. Same anomalous readings as a village that was hit a few weeks ago back in their travels. Same readings as the orphanage they were at 2 years ago on the first attack.
But no closer to solving the mystery of where they're coming from, or how they get around so fast in one night.
As evening fell, the village continued in unease about the situation, as some of the younger village leaders attempted to calm the crowd, but only calmed by Nick and Mary's proposal that they may be able to retrieve the children. They had traversed the Everscoas. They know places from whence such entities could have been spawned, particularly a place they had once traversed a year ago, thought long dead and empty, now barren of any light. They would journey to the Black Ice Farlands, desolate deadlands of no light, no life. Nick and Mary immediately failing to change Dolly's mind about coming with them. If this place was truly as perilous as they say, the children didn't have much time, and her scanner was the only thing that could find the exact location fast enough, so long as they get her in range. The village still in unease about the situation. One of the younger village leaders, Iran, offers to go with the team. If they couldn't take these strange travelers' word, then surely they could take his, that he would return the villagers and his child back. With a yell, Nick summoning his sleigh of mighty reindeer from the distance, as the villagers fill it to the brim with supplies for the voyagers.
Hell, even taller than Dolly.
With night's fall, the villagers seal their tents and shelters for the night's blizzards.
In the elves' small tent, Ben questions Dolly on her choice to leave with the mysterious strangers. Dolly reaffirming she had to handle this, and they were to stay here and watch over the village, Ben only urging her caution. And by daybreak, the sleigh rumbled in departure from the village. In no time, it had already begun to fade away in the snowy horizon behind them. Before beginning the long and dauntless traverse, Mary warned that Dolly and Aaron would probably die on this journey. Immediately noticing the oddity of the line, attempts to lighten the mood by joking about finding somewhere warm to bury them.
As well as that Nick cutting in promises that they'll make sure that they survive this journey. The village now completely faded from the horizon snow. A day in the journey, they were already unbolted by the merciless harsh blizzards as they traversed the icy land, being frozen day and night. Backseat as Mary steered the sleigh. As Dolly looked at Nick in genuine questioning at him wearing no sleeves in this Arctic weather, unbothered as he writes his journal in the snow, diary accounting the expedition inland.
Nicholas Claus was always mysterious in such ways, she brushed off.
A few more days' snowy travel. When the weather was more stable, Mary rested taking a nap on the luggage as Aaron took a swing at steering. Nick and Dolly seated in the back seat as he questioned how long she would keep ignoring him. Dolly denied any knowledge of this as she sharpened a weapon.
To ease awkward tensions, diverted the conversation, asking how her and her friends have been.
Dolly giving into conversation if only to make him quiet.
Years ago, he showed up and then left them to fend for themselves, so now they form their own team and look out for each other and the rest of the Everscoers. No one will be left to fend for themselves against the beasts of the Arctic or even frozen dagger assassins. Or at least not on the elves' watch. Now we kick all forms of ass. Cutting in was Aaron's gasped excitement at seeing the herd of mammoths in the distance. Regaling as a child, he always wanted to see this. He had now wanted to share moments like this with his daughter, but she was never interested in such things. Balling his fist. You know, normal kids don't worry about monsters and ass-kicking, he directed.
Hey, I'm 19, she snaps back.
To herself, she wasn't a kid who needed to be looked after.
Snow crews halted by Mary awaking with a yell. Something was felt moving around in the luggage. As Nick unstrapped the luggage, taking off the tarp, the three behind him prepared for the fight of their lives, weapons pointed.
The child falls out, with an awkwardly embarrassed smile, giving a stuttery wave at the surrounding group.
The whole party stunned at the sudden meek stowaway, who seemed to have been surviving off reindeer snacks. Mary actually impressed at his hiding skill. Later, on a steady cruise once more in the gently falling snow, the kid sat in the back seat, munching on a carrot, wrapped in an overly large fur coat. His name was Bai. He answered to Nick questioning why he stowed away. The boy had seen his friends dragged away during everything, the boy answered. His elders had told him tales in his earlier youth about a monster that would come and take away bad kids. He knew it was because of the water prank they had done earlier. It wasn't even his friend's idea, it was his. Let his friends be taken for him. He had to help. He had to. Nick holding him in solace, assuring this wasn't his fault, and he promised they would get his friends back. A cyclic chase for monsters and demons would not bring him what he seeks, but leave him aimless.
But he had to cherish what was still like his family.
With that, after a day's sleigh ride, more traversing, a bad ice storm, they traveled in unison once more, the child in more cheerful spirits now. But Dolly still a little annoyed that the little dweeb had stowed away, or maybe more upset about her snacks that he stole.
The child squealed in excitement at seeing a herd of mammoths, bringing warmth and excitement to Aaron's heart as the two bond over the scenery.
The next day, the two yet again bond, fishing in the 3-meter ice hole they quarried. Dolly once again mad they were using her grappling hook as a fishing line, but she only wouldn't mind if they caught a big fish with it. After a few more days' travel, the cloudy snow picks up as the team traverse through ruins. Nick and Mary in steering seat, Dolly in the back fiddling with her device, while Aaron and Bai took a nap.
Nick joking in cherishment of this found crew of hers. She was distracted, eyes darting as she scanned the layout of the land, and getting an immediate unease as they entered some smoky fog that didn't develop in places like this, with a look signaling Nick they should be ready. Dolly also able to pick up on the two now, readies her weapon.
But what was coming, what was here, was no fur beast. With a flash explosion, shocking the party, disorienting Dolly, shocking Aaron, as he immediately dove to shield Bai. Nick and Mary, unfazed by the explosion, stand. Mary blocks a sword swinging at her. A raider. Grabbing him by the arm, sending him flying, slamming into an old vehicle. As more emerged from the smoke, it was raiders. Some making an attempt at unstrapping the luggage, some making an attempt at unstrapping some of the reindeer. But unlike the luggage, the reindeer fought back. Before they knew it, the crew found themselves in a surrounded battle for survival. Mary
jumping out with a rush, immediately laying waste to the hordes of enemies with her bone axe. Arrow shot into her back, retaliating, throwing one of the fallen's axes at the archer.
Nick defending and swaying around each enemy, ease until Bai was grabbed. Nick turning his attention.
Aaron overwhelmed, Dolly holding her own against an enemy until she was tackled from behind.
Laying his weight on her, urging her to stop squirming.
Hand put on his shoulder by Nick.
grabbing the man, sending him flying into the air, a distant smack to the ground. After checking Dolly's okay, starts turning again, looking for a buyer, who pops up behind him.
"I'm good at hiding," the kid comments,
picking up and setting both of them on the sleigh.
Meanwhile, Aaron knocked down by a large warrior, her battle axe and his staff. As she almost took a swing at him, the axe yanked out of her hand like from a child by Mary,
before giving the warrior a devastating headbutt, giving an immediate knockout. As they thought the battle was over, the largest warrior of all appeared, in his crowned helm, cane and mace in one hand, iron gauntlet on the other. He yells for the team to surrender to his armored glory, or they would fall beneath his reign here and now. This would be their doom. This would be the end of their...
With a slam, a reindeer rams him, crashing into a vehicle, as he wheezes on the ground in shame,
lightly unable to stand from the pain.
Notices they are carrying children's clothes, but no children, probably of the same situation as the villagers. As the team grab their things, preparing to leave, Nick walked to the fallen leader, ripping a page from his journal, dropping it before him, a map.
It will guide you to fresh forest lands, where people can peacefully live there. You are to end this life of Viking raiding. That was all he would be giving them, and the only warning he'd be giving them. The leader on the ground pried reluctant, but swallowing it to grab the paper.
As Mary pulls the arrow from her back, to Dolly's amazement, and crew putting themselves back together just enough to traverse the coming blizzard. After an evening's travel, they find a warm spot, setting up camp under an opening in the clouds, allowing view of the stars.
As the blizzard stabilized, or as stable as a blizzard could get.
But it wasn't enough to start a fire, or Aaron's attempt to. They inquired to Nick about this mission, about what they would be facing after all of this. Nick inferring it was someone from their past, someone who was once like him and Mary. "They also have amazing abilities?" Dolly questioned, to Nick's confirmation, whose rigid ways couldn't see him through time's passage. Now he's a threat to pulling all of us.
He's been given a few interpretations of a name over the years, but I guess the one that stuck most was Krampus, altering Aaron for a minute, as he continues twirling sticks to start a fire. Dolly continued tinkering with the distorting scanner. It was a base southwest. Nick had asked earlier how they had been over the years. They found a base southwest. Seemed to have been abandoned for a decade or so, like it was hit by an explosion or something, and seemingly abandoned. The other elves thought it was a lost cause. She convinced them it could be rebuilt better. Luckily, she had a friend who taught her how to work her way around a machine back in the day. Looking to Nick, the scoffing smile. Vi yawns as Aaron still yet attempts to show him how to light a fire. Looking to Nick, whose eyes begin to glow white. And with a spark, immediately the firewood ignites into a luscious flame. Vi jaw-dropped looking at Nick as his eyes returned to normal, signaling to Vi with a finger over his lips. Giving Aaron the cheer of success at lighting the fire. Reindeer surrounding them as they began to fall asleep around the fire, but getting a show as the aurora lights shone through the openings in the clouds, giving an illuminating show. Their cliffside view also allowing the view choirs of the Yeti migrating under the stars. Only at this time of year do they travel together, as the heroes slept and rested for the night, for they would need it. Early morning, the party rides once more, daytime not even clear beyond the dark clouds. As they traversed the colder but soot-choking winds, there was no doubt they were here. They were at the Black Ice Deadlands. As Dolly's scanner beeps in activation, charting a direct path for them, that marking the stop for the sleigh. Only Nick, Mary, and Dolly would proceed forward. Aaron was to stay here and watch by, giving Aaron a handshake as he fares them well, and thanks for the journey. The three begin and traverse a long hike across the dark lands, now over a dark cliffside, watching the entrance of a dark maw. Scanner directing to the very void. After more hiking, the three steadily sneak into the dark labyrinth.
exploring the dark, hard-to-breathe sulfuric environment as they find an arcing field of vines, as if some dark altar. Dolly examining the smudging vines until she notices a face, pushing them aside. A child, looking elsewhere. It was children. To the team's horror, they were suspended unconscious, mixed in the roots and snow, all arced against a center boiling void of a hole masked by smoke. But Dolly explored the holes in the ice, in the roots and snow, Mary warning her caution as she reached her hand through. She felt fresh air on her blouse, not long before she stuck her head through. To shock and amazement, the hole led to an opening in horizon view of the village, her radio comm even picking a signal, as if some portal. This was how the beasts were getting around.
Nick hadn't seen powers like this since before they knew it, they were ambushed.
The vines beneath their feet shifting, slithering around them and constricting.
More of the fur-horned beasts emerging from the shadows surrounding them
in overwhelming numbers, as a dark-winged figure cast its shadow soaring over them, landing center of the monsters in dark majesty. Immediately Dolly knew this was Krampus. My fellow divine messengers. Nick, Mary, is that what you go by now? I hear. Seeing yourselves one of them now. Looking down at Dolly.
It's hard to keep record when those you thought allies leave you half frozen for a long time.
The vines tightening around them. Mary brute strength in yanking herself free, her bone axe jumping into the air, swinging for the dark cloaked figure. Sways dodging her every attack with ease. When did you become one for uncivility? Disdained, Krampus asks her. Very well, if that's where you'd lower yourself. His eyes glowing white and blue, raising man-sized enemies of dirt and ice. Snowman.
She always hated his games, she yells.
Mary cutting each of them down, but they rise once more. Krampus returning to now begin the ritual as he and the fur beasts surround the smoking void, seemingly focusing their minds as Krampus speaks some unknown tongue.
Nick in terror knew exactly what it was, yelling against it as the portal began an amber glow.
Flames pouring out in vortex, similar to the ground portals, but this one was different, led somewhere further. As Krampus chants in glory at the cradle of the new humanity, roots began shifting the children of the old world would not be reborn in the new youth, for he would cleanse it out in the pits. He called for his beast followers to shed their hiding. Beast, removing the fur as masks and costumes.
They all men and women, the one at right hand, Aaron.
To Nick and Dolly's respective shock and anger. This was how Krampus knew we were coming. Aaron wished he could apologize, he expressed. His child was born imperfect. She didn't like normal things kids did. He could never connect with his own child because she was impure, like you, Dolly. This was your second chance, placing his hand on her cheek to her resistance, to be reborn. Gee, I knew you were a whack job from the start, Ben says from behind them.
With a smirk, as behind him more elves emerged from the portals.
An armed force. We got your radio signal, Dolly, he says with a smirk. Krampus infuriated at the disturbance.
As Ben orders a charge of the forces,
storming the Krampus followers who retaliate to protect their Dark Master's ritual. Massive battle ensued, freeing Nick and Dolly to join the fight. One of the elves whipping out a flamethrower, devastating the snowmen and trapping Mary, scaring off most of the followers.
Krampus, furious the psychic geometry of the ritual disrupted, he would complete his mission even if 1%. Dark roots yoink a child hidden in the shadows.
Nick's terror noticing it was by. Can't hide from me, Krampus said. Aaron jumping in to retaliate. He had not known the child followed him, pleading he was one of the good ones. Krampus thanked him for his service and sent all of the followers flying into the fire first as his gift. Nick pleading this wasn't the way to fix humanity's strand. Krampus was enraged. Nick should know better than he was there when they took the first bite into corruption. He was there when they poisoned the world of old. He's here now as they plot reign over each other in these very icelands.
Should know this is the only way, throwing Bai into the fire in a rage,
unfurling his wings to tackle Nick into the wall. Noticing, runs for the vortex, throwing the end of her wire to Mary, who yells against it.
Dolly with a smirk, I trust ya.
Diving into the blazing tunnel. She feels her mind overloaded with terror and nausea. Hundreds of tortured, burning hands clawing at her sanity, but maintaining resolve to grab by as their hair turns gray, shielding him from the clawing arms as Mary pulls them up. The horrors not letting her go. She unlatches the wire from her belt and onto Bai's. In acceptance, Dolly lets the collapsing flames of the portal take her, disintegrating her to dust. Nick, enraged, unleashes a flood of vibrational energy. Mary and the elves shield each other and overpowering Krampus to his shock, sending him flying into the vortex before unleashing a blade of divine flame, while shielding the eyes from the blinding strike, engulfing the cave in searing light. Nick landing to give the children a calming smile. The cave purified, the vortex and Krampus gone. Later, with the sleigh, Mary and the elves returned the awakening children. And finally, Nick came to get Ben, mourning his friend before the once portal. Returned to the village, families and children rushed to warm embraces of reunion. Nick, Mary and the elves rewarmed by the sight. Nick would no longer be a simple wanderer for the Everscores. He learned from Dolly, as he implored the elves to take them to this base in the southwest. All he spoke of there, they would make his factory. No part or point of the mission was meaningless. They would work to help as many of the people of Everest to go north as they could. Maybe one day more. And if Dolly believed in him, then now so do they. He was now one of them, one of the saints of the north. Saint Claus. Comment what you think of the art, the story. Suggestions. Instagram is Comet-Man.comics. Truly excited to kick off the new year of videos. This is your Comet-Man signing out. Bye bye.